March 9th Village Board meeting. I'd ask the clerk to please take the roll call.
Trustee Bachner.
Here.
Trustee Karji.
Here.
Trustee Vasquez.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Here.
Trustee Hennick. Trustee O'Connell.
Here.
President Aducey.
Here. If I can ask you to please stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here we go.
Nothing. It's going to be a good night. All right. Huh? It is going to be a good night. Okay. So we have no citizens' comments, so I will go ahead and ask the elected officials to give their comments and announcements. But maybe before that, we will do our 2019 Officer of the Year Award. So I'll ask our chief.
Traffic jam.
Traffic jam.
Be a cop around here.
We got our traffic study coming.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the Village Board. Tonight we are privileged to present the Police Department's 2019 Officer of the Year Award. The Officer of the Year Award is earned by the police officer who has demonstrated consistently and superior performance in a variety of activities including enforcement, attendance, physical fitness, integrity, initiative, judgment, and demeanor. Officer Maxwell Ostrowski was selected as the 2019 River Forest Officer of the Year by our awards committee on February 25th of this year. Officer Ostrowski received several nominations from his peers and supervisors for this prestigious award. The nominations described Officer Ostrowski as self-motivated and that he consistently demonstrated superior performance each day he came to work. Officer Ostrowski displayed a high level of proficiency in DUI enforcement with the most arrests in 2019 and was also recognized by Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD, and the Allegiance Against Intoxicated Motorists, AIM. And this dedication to these organizations and to DUI enforcement is in part to remove intoxicated and dangerous drivers from our roadways here in River Forest. In addition, Officer Ostrowski led the department in total criminal arrests for the year. So not only on the traffic side, but also on criminal enforcement. Officer Ostrowski has been described as a mentor to newer officers and has demonstrated a strong commitment to teamwork by consistently assisting his fellow officers. Officer Ostrowski was recently selected as our newest field training officer for the department. Max grew up in Oak Lawn and currently resides in Warrenville. He attended Oak Lawn Community High School and is a graduate of Northern Illinois University. Max met his lovely wife, Kate, while at Northern Illinois University. And there is a story that was briefly shared is that she was actually his physics lab partner. Can you confirm? Okay. And thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate you and the new baby. Officer Ostrowski and Kate just welcomed their first child, Patrick, on October 8th of 2019. In 2016, at 26 years of age, Officer Ostrowski achieved his professional goal of becoming a police officer and was honored to do so in a community such as River Forest. Officer Ostrowski will complete his fourth year of service with the department in April of 2020. At this time, we are honored to call up and present the 2019 Officer of the Year Award to Officer Maxwell Ostrowski. Please come up, Max.
Yeah.
President Aducey, would you be honored in presenting the award to Max?
give you a handshake. I know it's not proper right now. But you deserve that.
Do the foot shake.
This is wonderful. Great. Well, thank you. Congratulations again. And congratulations to your wonderful, beautiful wife and baby. Congratulations.
You guys available for a photo with?
Sure. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we,
With all of us.
Not the baby. You want a photo. You do want a photo of all of us.
I know, what's he gonna do with this photo?
Share it.
Yeah, we'll get you in the next. We'll get it out. Come up with us.
You want the baby?
No, Andy.
Oh, Anthony.
Just the baby.
Just the baby.
You can have the baby crawl up. All right, do you have everybody? Everybody? Yeah.
It's a crime scene.
Now we need the baby in.
One more set.
We'll get this. I'll get it. Yeah. You don't have a problem? We'll do one with the family and then we'll get out. So that-
Yeah, that's just like.
Look at it, you're like, who are you? All right, we'll get out of your picture and you guys can have. What are we gonna do with that picture? It's true.
Yeah,
Did you get a picture of the family?
yeah, he stayed
Yep.
red for quite a while, and then he went to.
Let's get it.
Well, we could get out of the.
Oh.
Don't you think
We've been meeting pretty much every day.
Turn my phone.
Should we get out of the way?
No, I closed my desk. No, you have legal issues to touch the general counsel's office. I think I'm hitting. You need a legal opinion.
It's basically, it was like in the ad, it was like, you can't, as a lawyer, it was like basically, you can't advocate for the board members.
I can explain that. It's horrible.
Well done.
Are we down one?
Yes, just temporarily.
He was nominated to become judge, federal judge.
Was it in?
No, it was the general. Yeah, it was,
Currently.
Your
John?
call's important.
John Ness.
You stay on the line. It'll be answered in the order.
He's a nice guy.
Issues have worked out, haven't they?
Not if they're doing what Drew just said.
If you want someone to do that, you think you go outside. Instead of having someone say, can't do it on the board, investigate.
There's a way, then maybe an investigation goes a certain way if you have control over it, which is not always
But then
good.
why advertise the way they were doing it?
Well,
It was just a
that's
weird,
true.
it was a very weird ad. Because it was nothing educational.
Congratulations again to
They work more.
Max and his family. So with that, I'll go ahead and ask the elected officials to make their public comments. So maybe we'll start with Trustee O'Connell.
I have nothing to say.
Okay. Katie?
I have a couple things. One is I attended the OPRF annual Chamber of Commerce meeting, and Riverforce was well represented with Kathy, who spoke, and John Pape and Sarah. No, not Sarah.
Lisa.
Lisa was there. Sorry. we were well represented. That was a nice event. And then I also attended the opening kickoff event for the One Earth Film Festival, which was last Friday. And there are so many great films on offer all over the Chicago area, but especially in our area. And there's a schedule of the films taped to the table back there. So if you're interested, just take a photograph of it. And tickets are still available for some of them. Some are sold out. Most of them are free. It's pretty much a donation. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that the village is going to be collecting the corrugated plastic signs, such as the ones that many of us elected officials used for the last election, in the next week. I think the box is going to be out in the same place where we usually collect the holiday lights, underneath that railroad trestle. So please dig out those signs that are in your garages that you haven't want to stick in the landfill, and we can now recycle them starting the end of this week.
Great. Yep. It's on the website too.
Breaking news.
Huh?
Breaking news.
Yeah, it's also on the website. That's good. Thanks. Thank you, Katie. Okay.
May I
Kathleen,
just-
anything?
Well, one question was, since we're going to be keeping our census signs up until Census Day, how long will the recycling be going for the signs so that we can?
Yeah,
Right.
it's a good idea. Good
John
question.
just informed me we will have enough time,
Okay.
so
Okay.
long enough to be able to
Keep
collect
our
the
census signs up to the
That's
very
right.
end. Okay, and then a big congratulations to
Open.
Officer Ostrowski and his family, and thank you for your service and all that you do for our village. And then briefly, over the weekend as I was walking to Forest Park's St. Patrick's Day parade, I was crossing both ways from Washington and had an opportunity to chat with a number of the officers that were doing traffic. And I must say that there were a lot of very cranky drivers on Washington at that point, and I was very impressed and appreciative of the professionalism and patience that all of the officers I spoke with were managing to maintain in a somewhat difficult environment. So thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. Russ?
Just one item. I attended the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Age-Friendly Communities Collaborative on March the 5th. It was held at the Hanover Township Senior Center. The topic was transportation, and we had like 3 speakers on the topic. One was Jeremy Glover from the Metropolitan Planning Council. They prepared and did a study for the last 2 years on transportation in various metropolitan areas, municipalities, and as surprising as this sounds, they came up with a report, 85-page report, saying that it's a fragmented system. So, so their recommendations, and of course, thank God they gave me the executive summary. But I'm going to later read the 85-page detailed summary. But recommendations included improving the service coordination between municipalities, also improving the wayfinding signs, including also the possible use of private sector transportation services, the Ubers, the Lyfts, as part of it. And of course, the ultimate issue is funding and looking at that. We also we had the Hanover Township. They actually presented their transportation plan. That was a combined public transportation as well as some private transportation, the Lyft and the Ubers when it was appropriate to do that. We also heard from the McHenry County, who did some coordination for the county and some of the municipalities who they were able to reach an agreement and provide an economies of scale when it came to providing the transportation services. So food for thought for our group. So we're going to be looking and studying what's going to be appropriate for our area. And we're going to be obviously working with the River Forest Township and Oak Park Township as well, because they already provide some transportation. So we're trying not to overlap services, and probably also just trying to achieve our economies of scale for our area. So that's it for now.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Tom?
Officer Ostrowski, congratulations, and to you and your family. Thanks for your service. The Deer Committee met last Wednesday. It was a largely introductory meeting. There was really no substantive discussions. We meet again, I think, April 1st, and I think we'll have Tim Pruce, the DNR guy, there at that meeting, although I'm not sure he's confirmed, but we have reached out to him.
Okay, great. That's good. All right, thanks, Tom. Erica?
I'd like to start with land acknowledgement. So, as we begin, we are mindful that we hold these meetings on land that once and still is inhabited by the indigenous people, including the Ojibwa, the Chippewa, Menominee, Potawatomi nations, and more. And we remember our nation's history and honor the Native people as stewards of the land that was colonized, and that River Forest continues to be a place many people from diverse backgrounds live and gather. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the census. We had an amazing event at our Jewel this Saturday where because of the efforts of our Complete Count Committee, in particular Jan Sager and Judith McDevitt, were able to hand out over 1,500 reusable bags with the Census 2020 logo, and talk to that many people about the mailer that's going to be coming in the next week or two with the identification code, giving you an opportunity to fill out the census online or over the phone. You can give a call. And just some of the expectations. This information seemed very new to almost everyone that I talked to. Wow. So it behooves every single person here to get that message out, because in that first and maybe even second mailing, many people aren't going to get the form that they normally see. Yeah. I think it's something like 70% of people aren't going to get that form. So it's going to be a little bit different for people who have done this, 5-6 times over the course of their lives, maybe even, right? So really want to thank those two, and John Pape, who brought all the materials out, and Jane O'Connor, who came out, and Christina Lorenz for helping out. It was so successful. I think we're going to do it again. We might try to pick another grocery store, maybe on the other side of River Forest, but we'll see.
First time.
For next weekend, yeah.
Quick question. I noticed that there's banners at some places. We're going to put banners near most of all the parks, like by the bocce courts and North Avenue. Okay.
We hung 10 banners around town, and they're near most of the major parks and schools in general. So
okay.
Yeah, the ones we have are hung now, but they're Constitution and Keystone, the Priory Park.
I think maybe we're thinking maybe by the Metro.
Yeah, I would say
well.
where you get a lot more.
We're also going to try to get some more yard signs up in the next week or so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
Between that and then the library has a banner up through their entrance. It's the first thing that you see when you come through the door. The next meeting for the Complete Count Committee is March 11th.
Okay, great. Good work. Thank you. And we keep putting it into our newsletter too. We, keep throwing it in there, and hopefully people are reading it and at least acknowledging that there is a census coming. Okay, just a few things that I have. I had an opportunity to do my first press conference in Springfield with the Illinois Municipal League. I was with Leon Walkingham. He's the mayor of North Chicago and also the president of IML, along with Brad Cole, who's the executive director of IML. And we all spoke regarding restoration of our local government distribution fund. It's a piece of important budget item for us. It typically has always been at a 10% level. And over the years, it's been picked away, as I say, constantly picked away. And it's sitting around 6% now. And our Governor Pritzker, has mentioned in his budget address that he wants to take more of that away from the local municipalities and put it in reserves for the graduated tax referendum, that property tax, graduated income tax referendum that he is supporting, of which, again, regardless if we are in support of that tax, IML's position is it should be independent of the graduated tax referendum. So that was what the press conference was. We got a lot of nice press. I think I sent it to all of you. So take a look. It's interesting. I also attended along with Trustee Brennan and Lisa and John the 2020 annual meeting for the chamber, and I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see a lot of businesses. I think there's some excitement around town. We see a lot of in the paper, a lot of movement of businesses come and go, but I think that's just a natural way, and I think the chamber's doing a really nice job of keeping all of our small businesses engaged. Again, congratulations to Officer Ostrowski and your family. Thank you so much. As Kathleen said, our clerk, you serve us, you protect us and serve us every day, and we appreciate it. And I know that all of our residents enjoy working with our police and fire department. And then last, congratulations to the young filmmakers contest. I know we have two great winners, and I know we have a runner-up. So as Trustee Brennan mentioned, we encourage everyone to go to the film festival, the One Earth Film Festival. It's really a great event. So, and then last, and I failed to mention this last month, and thank you very much for reminding me. But several weeks ago, we had a commissioner and a very dear friend, the longtime resident of our community, suddenly passed away, Mark Walsh. If I know some of you around the table have known Mark, he was one of our commissioners for our Police and Fire Commission, and he served in that position for almost 22 years. Mark passed away, like I said, suddenly. His wife Eva and Mark have 5 boys. All went through, I think, St. Luke's and maybe Fenwick, maybe a few in OPRF, but they're stalwarts in the community. And so even I have chatted a few times, but I just wanted to keep the family in your prayers and hope, they can get through this difficult time. So other than that, that's all I have. And so we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the consent agenda. So if I can get a trustee to please move the consent agenda A through H. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through H.
Second.
Okay. Any questions regarding these? If none, I would ask the clerk to please read out loud the consent agenda.
Item A, regular village board meeting minutes, February 24th, 2020. B, waiver of formal bids and award of purchase through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative, a 2020 Chevy Tahoe Police Patrol package from Curry Motors for $38,102.21. C, resolution to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters resolution. D, independent contract agreement with Thrive Counseling Services for crisis intervention services. E, approval of a plat re-subdivision for 935 and 947 Franklin Avenue. F, monthly department reports. G, accounts payable, February 2020, $1,607,353.39. H, village administrator's report. Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Kargi.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the consent items for separate consideration. So if I can get a motion in a second.
I'll move to approve payment from the general fund to McDonald's Caravides for $155.62.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
I would ask the clerk not to call my name due to my employer's relationship with the franchisee.
Okay. So item A, accounts payable from the general fund to McDonald's Caravides for $155.62. Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Kargi.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, we're moving on to recommendations of boards and commissions and committees. If I can get a trustee and a second on item 7A, which
Well,
was, go ahead.
I move to approve the resolution amending Resolution 20-03 regarding the number of members on the Village of River Forest Deer Management Ad Hoc Committee.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions regarding this? I think we've kind of discussed it at our last board meeting. So if there's no further questions or any comments, then I would ask the clerk to please take the roll call.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Kargi.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
No.
Okay.
Motion passed.
Okay, now 7B, this is to appoint 2 members to the ad hoc committee. And,
Kathy, I'd like to make a motion first that we consider these 2 individuals separately.
okay. All right. Second, okay. I think we could separate them.
Right, so someone can make a motion on one of the 2 and then on the second of the
Yeah,
2 if you
okay.
want. That's how you would do it. You could withdraw your motion. There's no need to split them because no motion has been made yet.
Okay,
I'll withdraw my motion.
okay.
And then I'll move to concur with the recommendation of the village president to appoint Julie Armstrong to the Deer Management Ad Hoc Committee to serve until the committee is dissolved.
Second.
Pretty good, Tom. All right. Any further questions and comments about Julie's appointment? Hearing none, I'd ask the clerk to please take the vote.
Trustee Kargi.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell. Yes. Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
Okay, so then we'll need a motion for Oscar Kosberg to add him to the ad hoc committee.
I move to concur with the recommendation of the village president to appoint Osgold Kosbar to the Deer Management Ad Hoc Committee to serve until the committee is dissolved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any comments or questions regarding this appointment? Hearing none, I'd ask the clerk to please take the vote.
Trustee Vasquez.
No.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell. No. Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Kargi.
No.
President Aducey.
No, I don't think I vote, right?
No, she doesn't
Yeah.
need to vote because it would
3 to 2.
only create a tie.
That would create the tie.
Okay.
All right. All right. So that failed. So I will bring back a new name in our next meeting. So let's move on to new business, an item 9A. It's the intergovernmental agreement with Metra for noise abatement pilot program. If I can get a motion and a second to discuss this.
And a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental funding agreement for the pilot program to test the effectiveness of sound barriers at the River Forest Metro Commuter Station between the Village of River Forest and the Commuter Rail Division of the Regional Transportation Authority.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thanks. Your turn.
On the floor. All right. Before you tonight is an intergovernmental agreement with Metra. This was a culmination of a lot of intergovernmental cooperation, as well as the assistance of our state senator and village president. And so, as you know, we've had ongoing dialogue with Union Pacific, Metra, regarding the installation of the third or triple track, which is west of, just starting where the commuter station is, working west towards the Des Plaines River. The residents, and rightfully so, expressed some concerns about that installation on various levels, one of which was the additional noise that would be generated and the proximity of that noise. Metra, in this case, stepped up and was willing, after the village did some research, to fund the installation of some material that'll go onto the existing new fence that's been installed in the Westlake area. And the hope is that this would act as a mitigation tool to dampen the sound, not so much from the engines because of the height of the engine, but from the rail cars in terms of the wheels that generate a lot of the ongoing noise. And so the way this agreement is structured is the village will go ahead and purchase that material. We will install it. Our public works crews will install it. and then Metro will reimburse us for that cost. We will be on the hook for future maintenance, although candidly, I'm not anticipating a lot of maintenance going forward. It's a material that's applied to attached to the fence with an industrial grade zip tie. And then Metra is interested in this, and reason we're calling it a pilot program is they want to test its effectiveness on a going forward basis. Many sound mitigation tools are often very expensive because you're talking about putting up walls and things of that nature. This is a lower cost solution, so they'll be testing this to see test its effectiveness, to see if it has application in other parts of its territory. So you will be approving this tonight. Along with that, packaged into this is a resolution. The resolution will also give the village president, myself, and the village clerk to execute necessary easements with Union Pacific to go on their property for the installation and maintenance of this fence. And then finally, staff is still working with Union Pacific as it relates to that access road. They have finally come in with some plans that Jeff Loster is in the process of reviewing, and we're still working on getting that resolved. But that fence has been installed. The gate is up there. The gate's locked. We're just working on the permanent specifications of the access road. And I did talk to who's in the audience, Megan Cascatello, who is one of the leaders in that area. And so I gave her the call on Friday that this was coming forward, and Megan was gracious enough to attend tonight as well.
Thanks, Megan. Is there anything you want to add, or?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. We really appreciate.
Would you mind? Because otherwise people can't hear it if they go to the video or audio. Thank you. I guess we gotta hand it.
I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate the hard work that you've put into this. I know it's been like 18 months that we've been working on this project, and I very much, from the bottom of my heart, really appreciate it. We're already seeing a big drop in trespassing on the tracks, which concurrently means that we're seeing a big increase in safety based on those fences, and I'm hopeful that the noise material works as well in our situation as it does in others that I've seen and researched. And thank you, Eric, for finding that, and Kathy for brokering this solution.
Well, I know when we have reasonable people, we can do reasonable things. So thank you for being reasonable and helping us through the difficult conversations. But we found a solution. So thank you.
We're so grateful and happy. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. All right. What party's at your house? All right. Okay. So.
I just wondering, do we have a rough estimate of the kind of man hours it's going to take to install this stuff?
I don't. I could find that out for you, but again, it's basically rolled up, material. We're going to unroll it, attach it to the fence. I can't imagine.
How long of a stretch is it?
1,000 feet.
It's that big.
Yeah, I can't imagine more than a couple days.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great solution for a lot of things that we can do. Okay, so if we can take the vote, please.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Brennan?
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell?
Yes.
Trustee Bachner?
Yes.
Trustee Kargi?
Yes.
Motion
Great.
passed.
Okay, so moving on to item B. This is a discussion and direction, so we'll want to give John and Eric some direction on the solid waste and refuse contract.
And Mr. Anderson will walk you through that.
Okay. By the way, this is the item that Julie Moeller mentioned to us at the last meeting. Yeah.
Right. So just to provide an overview, the Sustainability Commission, in its report by Julie Moeller, at the last board meeting recommended the village move forward with a contract extension with Roy Strom. This was in response to a proposal from Strom to extend the contract while offering additional services to residents. These services include collection of e-waste and donation items. So those would be books, batteries, bikes, and other items that can be added in the future. And they would be collected as needed by the residents' request for no additional cost. The compost collection rate would be reduced to $15 per month. The universal solid waste tags would be lowered to $3 each. Informational stickers would be placed on recycling containers to let people know what is recyclable and what isn't. This proposal was in response initially to the Sustainability Commission's request for additional services to give more options to residents without the need for a recycling extravaganza. So the current Strom contract will expire in April of 2022, and there's an option in our current agreement to extend the contract for an additional 5-year period, which would run until April of 2027. Some other items of note in the extension proposal are the recycling material pass-through costs that would be charged to the village. And future rate increases would be either 3% each year or the CPI if the CPI is higher than 3% in a given year. And at this point, staff's looking for any feedback and direction for the next steps. Those options would include simply letting the contract expire and extending the contract in 2022, or RFPing the contract in early 2021, or entering into negotiations with Strom to extend the current contract based on their proposal to do so, and that's the recommendation of the Sustainability Commission.
Now, does everyone know what that recommendation is? I thought maybe we'd get a list of the 4 or 5 things that the sustainability.
So at this point, it hasn't. It was recommended by Julie in her report,
Right.
But the details haven't gone through the commission.
No, we remind,
So-
I guess, the trustees and myself
Okay.
what those high-level recommendations were.
So those would be what I mentioned: the collection of e-waste, e-waste items, books, batteries, bikes, other items that can be added in the future, and that would be without any additional charge. So it's an as-needed option for residents to call in and request whenever they need that pickup.
John, I thought there was it was contemplated that a $1 month would be added to residents' bills.
Yeah, so we ran those numbers. Strom either gave us the option of adding $1 per resident, per bill, I should say, or keeping the current rate schedule. And we ran the numbers, and it actually works out better to keep the current rate schedule all the way through the end of the current contract than adding $1.
Yeah.
So
Not significantly, but
right, it's just a little.
Yeah,
a
we
little
ran
bit.
the numbers on that.
So, first off, thanks for the comparison for other municipalities. So that's really helpful in going forward with this. I think if you can, get in there and get a, contract, get it locked in, given, everything else that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I think, that's where my head is, let's lock ourselves in for a longer period of time and do it now.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. I agree. And I think they'd like that too. I mean, they
yeah.
will offer more with us and for us if we can have a longer relationship.
John, will these add-ons be go into effect immediately or whenever we do the extension? So this will be
as soon
included
as
in
they
the-
can set them up. Right.
Right.
So,
So I was somewhat troubled by the idea of the adding $1 to the bill because there's no opt-outs, but I like the fact that now this is a part of the service, and to me that just seems fairer.
right.
So I was concerned last week when Julie had reported about that idea that you basically got to take a service you may never use.
Right.
I like the fact that it's a part of the basic service as opposed to being an additional charge.
Right. So they were either going to freeze the rate and then add $1 or keep the rate schedule. So it basically worked out very similar in the rate schedule. Keeping it the same worked out a little bit better for the village.
And how is the change going to be communicated to residents?
I imagine the same way we communicate other things to residents, to the website, Facebook, that type of thing.
Well, inserts to the bill as well.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I mean, we would, once we get all that decided and negotiate, we come up with a full strategy on how to implement all those changes, and not only implement them, but then communicate them to the residents. So we would do probably a little bit more than we usually would.
It's just as kind of an aside to this, is the Jewel the only place in town that you could buy waste stickers?
Here.
That's not in River Forest.
You could buy an old
Village
park.
Hall.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, can we reach out to CVS? Can we reach out to Fresh Time to see if there's options there?
Well, we do have them. I know we have them at Jewel. I know we have them at Fresh Time. I'd have to check. Rosie, do you know off the top of your head where we have the yellow tags?
There's Julie.
Oh, look who showed up.
Julie.
If you don't know, that's okay.
Just perfect timing. We're talking about.
Okay. I know we have them at multiple locations.
But why do you want them more? I mean, right? Why do you?
Because I go to different places. I don't necessarily go to, I do go to Dresses Hardware, but it's not like really on my route. I'd rather do something while I'm around here.
Just curious.
Village Hall is open until Monday night at 7 o'clock, so for a board meeting.
Fresh Time's closer. CVS is closer to his house. I think
But he's
We're
coming
actually
here for
trying
a
to-
board meeting.
We're trying to get people to, you know, do the composting in the more. You still want to put tags on? Whatever.
Come see what's in my garbage can tonight. You can make
I'm trying, Julie.
John, is there any cap on the recyclable reimbursement? Because is it going to be open so that whatever their costs are, they just pass through to us? Or that was another concern that I had when I read your memo.
Right. So the current contract has the pass-through costs going directly to us. They're just not choosing to do that right now. Going forward, that's something that's, I don't think they want to change that language. We can certainly talk to them about that.
Well, I understand that, but this then becomes sort of an unfunded, largely unfunded obligation to the village.
Right.
So that's the concern that I had, that if it becomes immense, we're on the hook for it.
Right. Right. So that I put in there what it has averaged. It's averaged
$3,500.
$3,500. Right. So it's a fair point.
We could hearing that point, though, we could certainly sit down with Strom and try to negotiate that and look at some other contracts to see what kind of language they've put in place.
But I just think the problem that precipitated this is going to grow. I mean, it's going to be harder and harder for them to get rid of recyclables.
Right, exactly. And so that's one of the main charges. And Julie, I'm sure, would be happy to tell you about trying to get people to change their behavior, rely more on composting, less on single-use plastics, i.e. boxed water is better. Right? No?
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, thumbs up. Okay, I wasn't sure if I said that right. It's a start, you know. No, I'm not doing it justice, I know, but I'm trying.
Okay. Okay.
So the next step would be, if you're all in agreement, John, Julie, and then we're guessing probably Ms. Gillis would be the other representative, would sit down with Strom and negotiate this out, other points that have been brought up tonight, and then bring back to you a contract.
And when do you think that might be done? Like
What do you think? 30, 60 days? Yeah.
end of April? No? Julie?
I mean, I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I would say 30, 60
their
days.
proposal anticipated us moving forward
Okay.
quickly. So.
And okay. Great. All right. Any further questions? This is great.
I would just say, in my experience, Strom has always been a great partner. They always say yes when we ask them to help out with, the lemonade. They've picked up the recycling, the compost, the landfill for free. The pumpkin smash, they've helped out for free. They always help out for free at the recycling extravaganza. Anything we ask them, they seem to be willing. They've been a great partner so far, and I have every reason to believe they'll continue to be.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. All right. Thank you, John.
Okay, thanks,
and
John.
thank you, Julie, and the commission. So we'll wait till end of April. Okay. I think that ends our regular meeting, and we will go into executive session for a few updates.
Was he gonna give a overview?
Oh yeah.
Well, we went right into consent, and I was just like, well, we're rolling
I said,
here.
remind me. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate. We had this whole conversation over it. I'm not sure which one's going downhill, me or you.
All right, so just a little bit on the coronavirus. The village staff has been involved and participated in all the calls that have been taking place. So at the regional level, through the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, of which we are a member, in fact, there's a call scheduled for tomorrow morning. Lisa's going to be on that one. I was on a call on Friday with the state, and so the governor's office is coordinating those calls, and that they're all municipal leaders. And I think Friday's call, we had over 300 people on that call, and that includes not only the governor's office and the governor himself, but the Illinois Department of Public Health and the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. And so most of that is just an exchange of information and communication. So a lot of what you're hearing in the news reports is consistent with what we're hearing as well. Even though I know today there were some additional cases that were identified, the overall risk in the state continues to be low. One area I would point out too, there are 3 existing testing labs within the state of Illinois run by the state. And so there's one in the Chicago area, there's one in Springfield, and there's one in Carbondale. So as those cases are identified and tested, those are sent currently to a state lab. Private labs are starting to come online, but Illinois it has taken the lead in this area across the country in terms of providing testing at a state level, and is doing so. And they, when those are tested and identified as cases, those cases are then traced back. So they look to trace back all the contacts that patient has had through the last 14 days or so. For what it's worth, being on these calls have been, very helpful, and everything is very well organized and presented. So, to the extent as a your municipal representative, I have confidence that the state of Illinois is doing everything in its power at this time to protect its residents. It seems like, to the extent it's organized and a well-oiled machine, it is, and certainly they're having calls with various agencies, the federal government, other states on a daily basis as well. So this is obviously a high priority for them. Internally, we've met as a team last week to talk about various practices and continuity of operations. Our police and fire operations are covered through mutual aid. The police chief and I had a conversation with one of our neighboring municipalities today, talking about should we start to experience issues with our own personnel, how we can evaluate that and deal with that on a case-by-case basis. We've communicated with our employees, similar to we have with our residents, to talk about best practices and what to do if you're not feeling well. Internally, we've made some changes to some of our cleaning operations. So our bathrooms are currently cleaned and sanitized every day, but we've added the walls to that. In the bathrooms, we're also cleaning all of our counters and floors more than we have done in the past. And then public meeting rooms such as this room, tables, chairs, arms, door handles, etc., those are going to be cleaned before and after a meeting. So it's cleaned as before you come in, it's going to be cleaned after, and that includes our boards and commissions as well, not just the village board. We also make sure any other high impact areas are continued to be cleaned, as well as police areas. So in our lockup areas, those places are all sanitized after a client, if you will, leaves the facility. We also have ordered some hand wall sanitizers similar to what you have found in like hospitals when nurses come in and check in. We've ordered some of those for the area as well. So we have the manual hand sanitizers, but we've ordered those as well. And if certainly as things change, we'll continue to update the community. And then we've also been in contact with our governmental partners as well. So I had a conversation with the superintendent of schools on Friday, just nothing to report, but just making sure that we continue to remain in communication as things develop.
And we also talked about our universities. I know we had a little issue with the Dominican University. Thankfully that kind of the test results came back negative. Tell us a little bit more about how how we're prepared in the village to deal with our universities. The tabletop exercises and things that you do.
Right, and so one of the two other things, the village is a member of a intergovernmental agreement, TRIPCOM, between the village of the River Forest, the village of Elmwood Park, and the village of Forest Park. And that is essentially a pharmaceutical distribution exercise that we have carried out at a full scale several years ago. The universities are a part of that because they are dispensing locations. And so we've continued to be updated and continue to update that plan as we go forward. I know the police chief and the fire chief were recently at a meeting with all the other TRIPCOM agencies to review that, update it where appropriate. We do remain in contact with the universities and have, I know as the village president certainly has stressed to them the importance that they remain in contact with the village and that we are community partners, and not only for the sake of the community, but we do have our own personnel that go to those facilities on a semi-regular basis, whether that be for calls for service or other means for inspections, et cetera. So as things develop they need to make sure they remain in close contact with the village to that effect. And also the state has released additional tabletop exercises that we can run through as a management team, and so we're in the process. We learned about that Friday on the call. The state has developed those just recently. We're going to procure those exercises and run through them as the as a team here at Village Hall.
Eric, to this extent that you understand, I think I've heard that other states have called for a state of emergency, and I imagine part of that is so that they begin to receive funds. I don't think state of Illinois has done
Yes,
that.
it does.
Oh, it
This
did?
afternoon
Okay,
they
this
did.
afternoon it
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's my answer.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
And then typically what we would do in those situations, similar to what we've done in flooding events, we open different codes up on payroll. So, and that typically all applies to overtime. So it's not so much on your sunk costs, but it's on your additional costs that come up. But regardless, we start tracking all that with project codes.
Is the testing kit still only available to people that fit the narrow CDC criterion? Was like visiting China, the hotspot areas? I mean,
I think it is. Don't they have to show symptoms or something?
That I don't have that particular information. All I know is part of the challenge has been having the access to the testing that we have that some other jurisdiction. I just don't.
I thought I had read most recently on the CDC website that they are removing the travel requirement for the testing that had been one of the criteria, but I believe that's no longer one of the criteria.
That is correct. It was originally. I mean, at the college where we're at, we're following similar things that Eric outlined. I'm happy to hear you're already ahead of it. But we're also, we cancel our international travel. We're actually now considering we're going to meet. We've been meeting every day. And tomorrow we're going to consider actually canceling all domestic travel too, by the way it's going. Now that the state of Illinois declared a state of emergency, so we're probably going to be heading in that direction too. So.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for Eric or anything regarding?
So just popped in my head. Conversations with Rush, Loyola, and
That's good.
any kind of protocol that the department is following, or do they weigh in on all of this?
I mean, I would check with Chief Bowman on that. He's the one who has the most interaction with Loyola, who's our emergency medical response, in terms of developing protocols and things like that, and has been in contact with the hospital. So I'll turn over to Kurt.
Yeah, Loyola has put out a protocol that they've updated twice since this all started. The latest one came out on March 3rd, but they're looking at it every day, and we get updates every day from Loyola over IDPH and Loyola protocols and CDC protocols. So it gets updated daily.
Thanks.
I'd also add that our TripCom, our plan is the model plan for the county. Every other plan in the county looks at ours to base theirs off of. So we've got a good plan.
Good.
Well, I'm very confident that between our involvement with the state, our involvement with our surrounding communities, and our other partners, and of course our wonderful staff, that we're on top of this issue. And I, even though it's a grave issue, and it's an important one, I think we've got it under control as best we can at this point in time. Okay. Any further questions for these guys? Hearing none, then I'd like to go into executive meeting.
Yeah.
We have to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Public
You want-
hearing.
No, you go right into executive.
Move to go in executive session to discuss the purchase or
Right there.
lease of real
Thank you.
property for the use of the village, including whether a particular parcel should be acquired and the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the village.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right.
Rookie
All
mistake.
right.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Kargi.
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll go into executive session and
Thank you all.
ask our visitors, thank you.